What is up, Mizzou fans? Welcome back to another preview on my channel here on Show Me Football. My name is Josh Fan of ShowMeFootball.com, covering your Missouri Tigers. He's Braden Dowers, and guys, it is here. It's Bama week. Time to preview the game. All that and more right after this. Ladies and gentlemen, Missouri Tigers fans, welcome back into another preview here on Show Me Football. You already heard everything in the intro. You guys know what it is. It is finally Missouri versus Alabama at home, 11 a.m. Braden, you better be awake and fired up, ready for this one because you're going to the game, right? I mean, we need all the
I'll
fans.
be there.
We need the fans. We need the crowd to be into it, pumped and loud on every third down, despite the early start. But you know what, Braden? Let's just start with this. Drinkwitz has repeatedly talked about how the 11 a.m. kickoffs they kind of put the road team at a disadvantage. And I hope that's the case in this one. But do you put any stock into that?
I've been talking about it with my dad, and we've been going back and forth on what we think this game's going to look like. And he's been preaching to me something very similar in the fact that Bama's coming off of a really big game against Georgia, a revenge game against Vandy, and they have Tennessee next week, which is obviously their biggest rivalry game of the or second biggest rivalry game of the year next to Auburn. So they are going through it in their schedule right now. And Kalen DeBoer has proven to lose these games at Alabama so far. I believe they are 2-5 in their last 7 road games under him. So the 11 a.m. kickoff, you're coming into Columbia. You're not necessarily thinking that Bama's just going to sleepwalk in here, but I don't think that they're going to be up for this game as Mizzou's going to be up for it. And if Mizzou can come out and punch them in the mouth, and that is something that they are going to have to do in this game. You can't play like you did against Kansas and go down 21-6 early. You can't play like you did against South Carolina and be down at half against them. You're going to have to go into half tied or winning this football game. And I think that having an 11 a.m. kickoff is actually going to help them do that because Bama is going to go into the game and, again, not necessarily they're going to be sleepwalking, but they're not going to be up for this game as much as they are for the other games that they've had. And this is something that I want to get out of the way right now before we break down everything in every little part of this game. This is the game for Eli Drinkwitz and this Missouri football team, not just this team, this program, to truly establish itself as a legitimate SEC contender for the foreseeable future. If they come out and they win this game, hell, if they win this game big, that will solidify Eli Drinkwitz in this Tigers football program as a top 10, borderline top 10, top 5, every now and again getting up to number 1 team program if they win this game. That is the potential that this game has to catapult your season into because they haven't had that opportunity yet. This is the first true opportunity at home that Mizzou has had to have a game like this. They had it at Georgia in 2023 when they were the 12th seed going in there and had a chance to win that game before Brady Cook threw a interception to a defensive lineman. But at home, this is the first legitimate chance that Mizzou has had to establish itself to the entire country and say, we're here and we're not going away under Eli Drinkwitz.
Yeah, for sure. This game has the potential to propel Missouri into that type of program. And I'm actually glad you started there because this conversation has been going on a lot over at Power Mizzou this week where I frequent the board. But like Gabe and a lot of those guys on the board have talked about how, Drinkwitz, he's been successful the last few years. He's made Missouri into a relevant program and they've won some games. They've won double-digit games back-to-back seasons, but they haven't quite gotten over the hump of beating one of those teams on their schedule. The LSU, the Ohio, or the Alabama, the Georgia. They've come close, but they haven't quite cleared that step yet. And this feels like, Braden, Missouri's best chance to do so. It almost, and I don't want to sound too harsh if Missouri loses this game, but if they lose, it kind of has the feel of if not now, then when for
It
this
kind of
program.
puts them in the same boat as James Franklin and the Penn State football team, who just could
Yeah.
never win the big game. That's the pattern that starts if Mizzou doesn't win this game. It's when are they ever going to win the big one?
Yeah. And like I said, I'm not trying to be too harsh, off the bat if Mizzou loses, because I mean, everything is still on the table, even if they lose this game. And this was a game a lot of
100%.
people had chalked up as a loss before the season started. But man, winning this game would take so much pressure off the rest of your schedule, because really Mizzou has to go 5-2 in the last 7 games of the season to secure a playoff spot. And clearing the Alabama game with a W, man, that would just be massive for this team. But yeah, it just feels like this is Missouri's time, man. Like people are talking about you in a way they haven't really talked about you before, but they'll very quickly forget about you if you lose this game, especially if you
Yeah.
lose in blowout fashion, just like Texas A&M last year. As soon as that game happened, people just kind of stopped paying attention to Missouri as a playoff team.
Mhm.
And it's just, man, this feels like the moment. Like the lights are on you. SEC Nation is back in town again. Bussing with the boys, I believe, is coming. Josh Pate's coming to the game. A lot of people are amped up about this game, and this is your chance. Like you're on a big stage. You got to go out and win this game. And it just feels like there's a different feeling in the air for this one.
Yeah, like the energy around this game for this Missouri Tigers team and just the fan base is something that I haven't really felt as a fan. Honestly, I haven't felt like this. I'm sure that this is a semi-similar feeling to what fans felt in 2007, maybe.
Mhm.
2013 and 2014, I remember those seasons. I was pretty young, but I never got this sort of feeling where it's like this game means everything. And even if you lose this game, like, yes, the season's still on and you still have a chance to do really good things and still possibly make the playoffs if you lose this game. Because honestly, if you just go 3-2 in the Bama, A&M, Auburn, Vandy, and Oklahoma games, if you go 3-2 in those 5 games, whatever way you put it, you're probably a playoff team. As long as you win the Mississippi State and Arkansas games as well. I
Mhm.
don't want to take those lightly, but
Yeah.
those feel like significantly easier games, even though Mississippi State, I think, is a much better team, and I really don't want to sleep on them. But winning the Bama game just automatically puts you in a fantastic spot. And before we do a Vandy preview in multiple weeks, I'm sure we'll talk about it there. But I really like the schematical matchup that we have against Vandy. The Auburn game. Okay, if we win the Bama game, I'm incredibly worried about the Auburn game as a trap game at night in Jordan Air. But it's all attention is on Bama right now, and you can't really think about that because, like you said, like just the energy of this game is something that I haven't really felt as a Tigers fan. And like they
Mhm.
have the chance to truly announce themselves on a national stage, and Eli Drinkwitz has the ability to go, look, guys, this Missouri Tigers team is legit. We are getting basically a new stadium. We are getting all of the recruits in the country because they've been on a recruiting tear recently too. And there's
Momentum is on their
nothing.
side.
Yeah. That like the momentum that they have going into this game versus the state that Bama is in. And Bama's had 2 really good wins in a row. But the schematical matchups of Missouri's running game versus Bama's run defense, a lot of things favor Mizzou, and that's what kind of worries me. It's just like, what are we missing? Because everything feels like it's pointing in the Tigers' direction.
Yeah, for sure. Josh Pate, actually, who I mentioned a minute ago, he was talking earlier today, put out a video on his social media, and he was on some other show. I forget the name of the show, but he said if you just take the logos away and present the two teams and their statistics, Mizzou, the arrow is pointing towards Mizzou in almost every statistical category. And there's something else I want to get out of the way too, Britton, and I'm curious what your thoughts on this are, because, like you just said, and like I was saying, Josh Pate talked about, the numbers favor Mizzou pretty heavily, actually. But then under all these posts I see where people have talked about that and how great Mizzou has looked on both sides of the ball and whatnot, I see a dozen Alabama fans in every comment section saying they've played nobody.
Yeah,
And granted, Mizzou's schedule has been easier than Alabama's to this point, for sure.
100%.
Can't disagree with that. But can we stop the notion that Mizzou has played nobody yet? They've had some easy games, but like Kansas was a solid win where it took some guts to win that.
It's a rivalry game.
And yeah, and they put up dominant numbers in that game. South Carolina with Lenora Sellers, even though they've started out rough this year, they can beat anyone with that quarterback. And Mizzou beat them and clutched when it needed to in that game in order to win. So this notion that Mizzou has played nobody and Alabama, has been through this gauntlet of a schedule. Like, okay, Alabama got throttled in week 1 versus Florida State. And that, when that first happened, people thought, okay, that might end up looking like not so bad of a loss. Maybe Florida State's really good. That might be a bad loss for them.
Yeah, because Florida State hasn't looked that great over the past few games.
No.
And just the nature of college football, any given Saturday, all of these teams, there are so many teams that are very talented on paper. That Florida State team, it has a bunch of talent. It has the ability to beat Alabama, but it also has the ability to lose to Virginia and then get absolutely throttled against Miami. I know that they mounted a late comeback, but it didn't amount to anything. But they were getting absolutely throttled the first 3.5 quarters of that football game. And we talked about it before the season started, where we were saying, what is South Carolina doing what has South Carolina shown that Mizzou hasn't? Like, why is South Carolina in the top 15? Now South Carolina is unranked, and because of the game that they had against Vandy. And just because the way that Vandy beat them, Vandy gets propped up, Vandy gets put into the spotlight because they absolutely throttled them at home in a game that Lenora Sellers gets hurt and just was a complete disaster for South Carolina because, like I said, any given Saturday, anything can happen. Like, literally anything can happen. Hell, tonight, Kennesaw State, 6.5-point underdog at home, just won by 28 points. Anything can happen in this absolutely beautiful sport of college football. So for people to say Mizzou hasn't played anybody, that's just not true, because South Carolina still is probably a top 20 talented roster in the country, I'd say. Like, they absolutely demolished Kentucky right after us. They'll probably lose to LSU, and they have an absolutely brutal schedule coming up. But I still think that they're going to be a 7-5, possibly 8-4 SEC team, which is respectable. That'll get them into a pretty big bowl game. And the fact that Mizzou beat them by 2 possessions in a game where Ahmad Hardy had over 150 rushing yards, you can't just look at that and go, oh, that's nothing. Because you can look at the Bama game where they beat Vandy, and you can technically say, oh, that's nothing, because who is Vandy beat outside of South Carolina? And it's like it's people trying to apply transitive property to college football and to football in general. It just never works.
Yeah.
And
we're guilty of doing it sometimes, but
no,
totally.
It's the nature of conversations around the game, but that's like I said, that's just how the game is, and that's how conversations around the games go. But that can't dictate what is going to happen on Saturday, and it's not going to dictate what happens on Saturday. You can try to get assumptions, and that's what makes talking about sports great. But the reality of the situation is we don't know what's going to happen on Saturday.
Yeah, and there's a wide variety of outcomes, and I promise, guys, we'll get into like specific matchups and stuff like that for sure. But I just wanted to talk about, the different possibilities, because I forget where I heard it this week, but someone else that was breaking down this game, I remember hearing them say Mizzou running away with it feels like the most unlikely result. If you were to rank like, close game, Bama blowout, Mizzou blowout of Bama, it feels like Mizzou blowout of Bama is the least likely. I think I actually disagree, and I'll tell you why. First of all, this game's at home. I don't see Mizzou getting run off their home field. No way. And I understand it happened last year against Texas A&M. It happened against Bama, but that was on the road. It's at home. Mizzou's a different team at home. Secondly, one of these teams has been throttled this year, and it wasn't Mizzou. We talked about it with Florida State, and that was a solid but probably not great team that did that to Alabama in week 1. Now, understandably, both these teams are a lot different, probably better than they were in week 1 of the season, but I'm just saying I'm working with the data that we have, and Bama has been blown out in a game this year. But also, I just think
here's a fun thought experiment, Josh. Would people say that Mizzou has beaten anybody if theoretically they won this Bama game, but Bama was coming off of a loss to Vandy at home? Would people have said that Mizzou beat somebody then for beating a Bama team that's coming off of a loss? Assuming that they had won at Florida State too.
Right. Yeah, no, because Mizzou never gets credit for beating anyone. They really don't. And I'm not even trying to do like the whole woe is Mizzou thing, but like, remember last year in the rankings, Mizzou beat Vandy and I think they dropped in the poll after that. And then Alabama actually lost to Vandy and ended up hardly moving, I believe, is what happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just it's whatever. But I do think it's worth mentioning, how you said Alabama's coming off of multiple, emotional wins. That Georgia game took a lot of prep. It took a lot of energy for them in order to win. And then Vandy, like that was an emotional game for them because they had to avenge what happened last year. And I think because of that, there might be a little bit of a false sense of security within that Bama locker room that they're just going to walk in and beat Mizzou because they took care of the 2 more important games on their schedule. What do you think?
I think that that's definitely the possibility, and that 11 a.m. kickoff definitely aids that.
Yeah.
So I think that I don't think that Mizzou is going to throttle Alabama. But I think that is more likely than Alabama throttling us.
Yeah. Because I just think this Mizzou team is too talented because I think they're more talented than they were last year.
100%.
I don't see the offense getting shaken in the same way they did against Texas A&M when that game started to get out of hand. It was like a couple plays didn't go their way in the beginning, and they just kind of shut down. I think this team,
like Luther was pouting on the sidelines and just didn't care.
Yeah, Brady Cook was Brady Cook.
Yeah.
I think this team's really close. I think they've got a strong group, and I even think this, like, even against South Carolina, and maybe it's not the best comparison, but like even South Carolina this year, like Mizzou was down in that game, or Kansas. Actually, Kansas is an even better example. Like they let that get out of hand at the beginning, but you just kind of got the sense they were going to punch back at some point. That Drinkwitz has built too tough of a program to this point. He's got his best, most talented group of guys he's had. They were going to punch back. They were going to find a way to win.
Yeah. So I'm not really worried that Mizzou is just going to absolutely get blown out of the woodshed and just doesn't know what to do, gets caught like a deer in headlights. It's almost deer hunting season, Josh.
Yeah. Mizzou fans, that's music to their ears.
Anyways, but no, I just don't think that Mizzou is going to get caught like a deer in headlights because of just what they have on the schematical side of this game with Ahmad Hardy versus the Bama run defense, because Bama's giving up about 150 rushing yards a game, and Mizzou is rushing for, I believe, 3rd in the nation with like 230 rushing yards a game.
And they have the leading rusher in the nation. So
yeah, they have the leading rusher in the nation. They have the leading rusher in the SEC. They have the second leading rusher in the SEC, which is just Ahmad Hardy after contact.
And then you have Jamal
because
Roberts, who's also in the top 10 in rushing in
yeah,
SEC, even after the bye
so
week.
which is just absolutely insane. Like this Missouri running game is just a beautiful thing to watch. And from everything that I've seen from Alabama, they're not really that good at tackling. And
Yeah.
that's not something that you can afford against Ahmad Hardy at
Yep.
all.
Who's
Like just
most missed tackles
that
this year.
matchup alone is going to keep Missouri in this game. It might not win them this game, but it's going to keep them in it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, Ahmad Hardy's one of those presences on the field that, he just has so much pull when it comes to, the defense having to prepare that even if he doesn't have a great game statistically, he's gonna play in it a factor in it, because if Bama's selling out to stop the run, then that's where you could see Mizzou's pass game, kind of come to life a little bit. And I definitely think Kirby Moore has been prepping for more of that, because he knows that Bama's going to be selling out to stop Ahmad Hardy, given their lack of run defense to this point. And I think it could be similar to Kansas, where Bo is just making the throws that he needs to make,
Yeah.
and maybe kind of a coming out party for the wide receivers. Because I don't know if you saw the clip, Braden, but they had AJ McCarron doing a preview with Neil McReady, who covers Ole Miss, and I forget who the other guy was. I think he covers Vandy. I could be wrong though. But AJ McCarron, obviously a Bama guy, he picked Bama to win, whatever. But they were asking him about the game, and you could just tell he didn't really know anything about Mizzou, because he's like, "What's their running back's name?" And it's like, if you don't know our running back's name, then you really shouldn't be
You
breaking
don't
down
know
this
anything
game.
about us.
Yeah, but he said, "I don't think Mizzou throws the ball all that well." Well, Mr. AJ McCarron, Bo Prabula is top 5 in the SEC in completion percentage this year.
Isn't he third?
Yeah, I believe so. He's top 10 in passing yards in the SEC. We've seen what he can do as a thrower. Granted, they haven't breaking it out as much in the past few games, largely because they didn't really need to, though. That's what I think.
They're a ball
And
control team. They don't need to take deep shots.
yeah, but you saw against Kansas, and granted, Kansas again may not be a great example. Maybe they're not a great defense, but it was a legit Division I football defense, and Bo made some. I mean, we cannot forget Braden. I think people have quickly forgotten some of the throws we saw Bo making that game, and it
There's
had
that one
nothing to.
back shoulder throw to Daniel Blood. He had that one throw to Norfleet in the South Carolina game. He had
Yeah,
that throw to Oligbodi. A few other throws to Norfleet that I remember where he just put some absolute zip on the ball and like
the
third
Kevin
and goal from
Coleman
the goal
throw on
line.
4th and 7. I
Like
mean,
whenever Bo needs to make a throw, he does. That's
yeah,
why we're one of the best third down teams in the country.
yeah, yeah, no, for sure. And
Because
I think,
Bo is able to make throws when he needs to. That's why in that Kansas game, we were 4 for 5 on fourth downs. Because
yeah,
he can make those throws when he needs to. And he needs to make those throws often.
yeah, I
And
just
he's
think,
proven in all the moments that he can. And this is just random side note, like you mentioning Bama's going to be selling out to stop the run. That's going to open up so many possible things for Kevin Coleman and Marquise Johnson to do.
for sure.
Like if Bama drops 8 in the box and is running a 1 high and that safety goes to the side of Kevin Coleman and you have Marquise Johnson one-on-one with a Bama cornerback, as long as you have decent protection from the Missouri offensive line, Bo's going to be able to throw that up. And I think that Marquise Johnson's going to be able to take on whatever Alabama cornerback is on him.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm hoping for, really, because like I said, I think Bama will be selling out to stop the run. And I think Kirby Moore. I just think I think he has something cooked up for this game. I really do, and I know we kind of say that a lot, but I really think he's been, because actually I was listening to the interview that Bo did with John Gruden earlier today, on the John Gruden YouTube channel. And even Bo talked about how Kirby Moore was absolutely dialed this week, and they were in the meeting room for hours just coming up, with things to do against Alabama. And like the Marquise Johnson example that you just used, I wouldn't be shocked at all if we saw something like that. And if we saw something like that very early, maybe because Bama's expecting us to run, and then we just open it up with a deep ball and you get ahead early in this game. Because, man, I think if you get ahead early in this game, there is the potential to run away with it.
Yeah,
and I know
100%.
that may shock some people. And I'm not picking, by the way, I'm not going to predict that. especially when we do our predictions here at the end. Like, I'm not going to predict Mizzou to run away with it, but I do think there's the potential for that if a couple things just don't go Bama's way. If Mizzou's pass rush is able to get to Ty Simpson early on and force a couple 3-and-outs.
And
And
Bama's offensive line isn't very good.
Yeah, for sure.
Because they don't have much of a run game, and they went up. Sorry to cut you
No, you're
off,
good.
but it's just bringing up something that I had in my head. Like in that Florida State game, whenever Ty Simpson had pressure in his face, he couldn't do much. And Ty Simpson, like, he's definitely more of a throwing quarterback, and he can definitely torch our secondary if our secondary plays like it has up to this point. But if you have Damon Wilson and Zion Young and Darius Smith getting in his face, Chris McClellan as well, you have Khalil Jacobs and Josiah Trotter on linebacker blitzes just going after him. I think that those guys can beat the Bama offensive line based off of what we've seen from Bama's O-line and their inability to run the football and Missouri's run defense. It's going to make Bama's offense incredibly one-dimensional. And Corey Buffoon, Gory, whatever you want to call him, doesn't seem to be able to, doesn't really like to blitz all that much.
No.
But I don't know if he's going to really need to against the Bama offensive line, because I think that the talent gap that we have is just better. Like, I think that we're better in the trenches on both sides of the football in this game, which is an absolutely wild statement to say against an Alabama team, but it's kind of just true. So
yeah, well, that's kind of why there's a different feeling in the air for this one, because this isn't the same old Mizzou versus the same old Alabama, where Alabama would come to town and you knew, or you just felt you would have felt great if Mizzou kept it within 14.
Yeah.
Whereas now you feel like they have a legitimate chance to win, and you could make an argument that Mizzou might be the more talented team. Like, again, 5 years ago, you tell someone that, I mean, they'd be like, get the hell out of here. But man, there's studs all over this defense, and Alabama is starting a true freshman at right tackle who's been up and down. Caden Proctor at left tackle, who some Alabama fans seem to hate. He was good last year. He was bad as a true freshman. He was good last year. Now he's kind of up and down
outside
again.
of his tunnel screenplays.
Yeah. That's I would hope our DBs are able to cover him if they have him run a route.
How would we see Chris McClellan trying to tackle Caden Proctor one-on-one? That would cause be crazy. Of those
yeah, that would be pretty insane. But no, you got Damon Wilson, Zion Young, both top 5 in the SEC, in the nation, actually, in pressure rate.
Yeah.
And I think that you need those guys to win their matchups. You have to, if you're going to win this, because I think Ty Simpson, he's a great quarterback, but he's even better if you're not getting pressure on him. Gabe DeArmond was talking about the stats on this PM in the AM feature and mentioned how under pressure this year, Ty Simpson only has 1 touchdown pass, as opposed to his other 8 touchdown passes being under no pressure. And I just think if you're able to get pressure on him, that's really going to help you out on the back end. And I think Corey Batoon
is to solve all of our secondary issues.
Yeah. And I know Corey Batoon, you kind of mentioned it already. He likes to not really blitz and he wants to drop his guys back. But I think if it's evident early in this game that your secondary is going to struggle against an Alabama, wide receiver room that, by the way, quietly might be one of the best, if not the best this year. I know Ryan Williams isn't having as good of a season. He's still extremely explosive. And then Jeremy Bernard, their other wide receiver, he's very good as well. These guys are dangerous.
Jalen Mbakwe, I know he's doubtful, but he was really good for me in my college football dynasty in Arkansas State.
Yeah, well,
he's really fast. I know that.
Yeah, no, there's still a lot of speed and explosiveness in this Alabama wide receiver room, so you're going to have to tighten up. But if it's evident early in this game that it's just not a matchup that you can win, then Corey Batoon needs to blitz. He needs to get outside of his comfort zone, and he needs to blitz, because I don't care if you're blitzing and Ty Simpson is completing passes. I'm going to get a little bit frustrated if we're just sitting back, only rushing 4, and Ty Simpson is able to tear up our secondary. Yeah. Like, get pressure on him. That is the goal, is to get pressure on him. And like you mentioned, we have to play to our strengths. Yeah.
We absolutely just have to play to our strengths in this game, and we have to play to Bama's weaknesses, because Bama's strength is letting Ty Simpson get a clean pocket and then just rip it. because he can do that. He is a phenomenal quarterback. He's probably going to go to the NFL, and he's going to rip it there too. I think that he is one of the best college football quarterbacks in the game right now. He is just phenomenal. He's a good play extender. He's not much of a scrambler, but he's good at extending plays. In clean pockets, he's good at just making plays. And if we give him clean pockets, he's going to be able to rip this secondary right to shreds. So if the game plan by Batoon is anything other than getting pressure after him and sending the house and just praying that your secondary holds on for at least a little bit while your defensive line gets there, that's a significantly better winning strategy, in my opinion, than the usual rush 4, drop 7, because that's usually what we do. We're going to need to rush 5 and 6 in this matchup.
I definitely want to see that. I definitely want to see that more frequently than what they've done so far this season. Now, another thing I wanted to talk about is Alabama's running game. They've struggled to run the ball. But Jam Miller has really come on the last couple weeks. They're starting running back. He's very talented. But you know what, Braden? I'm just not concerned about anyone's running in game versus the Missouri run defense. I mean, they've shown to be elite this year. I'm not scared of anyone's running game coming in here and doing anything against us.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about them in any capacity. They looked a little shaky against UMass, like a little more than usual. Like UMass had the most consistent running attack against us, but that was also more in the second half with most of the backups in. But still, a tad concerning, but I'm still very confident in this Tigers run defense to hold up. It's like I said, they just have to play to their strengths. They have to play to win the game, not play to lose, not play to not lose. That's the way that they have to play this game. They have to play to what they're good at, because I'm completely fine with the secondary getting beat on a deep ball or two if we're sending 7 or 5 or 6.
Like that's what I was saying earlier, because if you're just doing the same thing, if you're just doing the same thing that you were doing all season, you're getting torn up, then like, yeah, we're going to be pissed. But if you're at least attempting to get pressure, like I said, I'd rather.
If you're trying something new to try and win this football game, if you're trying to cover up your bad secondary and your bad secondary play by getting pressure and getting after a quarterback who isn't good under pressure, then I'm going to commend you a hell of a lot more if you're giving up deep balls on those kind of plays than if you're giving up deep balls because you're just rushing 4 and you're letting a shitty secondary try to carry your defense. Yeah. Because that's not a winning strategy for this football team. And I have a feeling that that's what we're going to fall into, and that is the way that we lose this game.
Yeah.
But on a, not really a miracle, but on the chance that Corey Batoon does really start to send pressure in this game and pick up those blitz numbers and just go after Simpson, I feel really good about this game.
Yeah, for sure. And the other point I was going to make, stemming from Alabama's lack of a running game and just how great our run defense is that's an easy way to get them off the field and get your offense the ball back. And Kalen DeBoer already talked about it earlier this week, how Missouri can just kind of time a possession you to death, which is why I say if you're able to get if you're able to come out, and I think this is the ideal game plan for Mizzou, or how you want the game to start, is you come out on offense actually throwing the ball, catch Bama off guard, boom, go up 7-0. Force a 3 and out, or just, stall their drive before they reach half field. Get the ball back. Then you let the running game rip it after Alabama's defense adjusts for the pass now, go up 14-0, and then, we'll see where the game goes. But I think that would be the perfect ideal start for Missouri in this type of game. And also another thing I was going to mention, just about time of possession and stuff like that, and being able to run the football. When Bo Pribula came over from Penn State, we're like, man, this guy can run, like really run. We had no idea if he'd be able to throw. Mm-hmm. He came in, proved himself as a thrower, and we've hardly seen the run, really, many design runs.
We haven't needed that many design runs, and I just don't think that Kirby Moore's that good at having designed runs, honestly, because the few that we have seen with Pribula have been okay at best.
They
Like
were
there's been
kind
a
of
few,
lazy. They were
yeah,
kind of lazy. It's kind of
there's been a few decent ones, but
well, like the one where it was the fake to Ahmad Hardy on the handoff, and then Bo
yeah,
turns around, and it was against South Carolina, and he got like 30 yards on that run. That's the kind of stuff I think
yeah.
we might see in this, because we talked about how great of a runner he is. We haven't really seen it, and I think a lot of that has been because, well, you're going up against some weaker competition at the beginning of the schedule. No need to put yourself in harm's way, but I think we see Perbula put it all out there and run the ball a lot more in this game.
As long as he doesn't have a turnover, I think that that's like the key of this
Yeah.
offense versus this defense is Bama's really good at getting takeaways. And Bo's had a turnover in every game since Kansas. He had the fumble against Kansas, then he's had 3 interceptions in 3 straight games. You can't do that against Bama. And if you do it in the second half and hopefully
In garbage time.
in garbage time when we're up. Like
Yeah.
that's when you can do it. So, like, if that's when he does it, fine. But you cannot have Bo Pribula throw an interception in this game when it matters. And he did that in the South Carolina game. That's the main reason why that game was close, was because of that Bo interception. The main reason why Kansas got off to that early jumpstart lead was because of the Bo Pribula fumble. You cannot have him turn this ball over, and we're going to need to protect the rock. Hardy has had a, like, if there's one bad thing about Ahmad Hardy's game, it feels like he's lost 2 or 3 fumbles this year, but luckily they bounced back our way. Because there's been a few times that we fumbled the ball. But yeah, back to what you were saying about time of possession. If Mizzou can play their game and they can play that time of possession game and just run out the clock and beat their defense down, as long as they're going into the game tight at half and they're winning the time of possession battle and they continue to do so in the second half, I think that they win the football game. And that's because you're keeping the ball out of Ty Simpson's hands. If we're doing that and we're not letting Ty Simpson play football that much, then I'm going to feel really confident, because
I also just think if it's close in the late third, early fourth, and late fourth quarter, dare I say, I trust Eli Drinkwitz more than I trust Kalen DeBoer in a close game.
Maybe. I mean, Drink has given us every reason to be confident in his ability late in games, in close games, because he's done a phenomenal job, especially at home. We've won 15 straight home games. Or is it 16 now?
I think it's 16.
I think it's 16, yeah.
Yep.
Like, he's
longest in the SEC now, I think, since Georgia lost a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. So he's given us that confidence in that, in those late close games in the fourth quarter. So if they control the time of possession and if we're in a close game late, I do trust Eli Drinkwitz. Kalen DeBoer and the talent on the Alabama team and Ty Simpson might be enough to overcome that. It's going to be the biggest test that they've had in a while. But like you said, I do trust Drink in those scenarios. And Kalen DeBoer, in, like I said, his last 7 games at Bama on the road haven't been the prettiest.
Yeah, and I think that's what has me feeling most confident, because this team, and we haven't seen him on the road yet this year. We will see him after this game, but I just think this has to be it, man. This has to be your opportunity to take that next step as a program and beat the big name coming to your house. If you're trying to compete for the playoff, or if you're trying to put up Ahmad Hardy as a Heisman candidate, like, he needs to have a big game. I actually think he needs to have a big game if Mizzou's going to win. Because if he doesn't have a big game, probably means you weren't able to execute the game plan and win the time of possession. But yeah, I don't know, Braden. My next question for you, though, because I do have a question for you, is, do you have any worry that this game is a little bit too big for Mizzou and they could start out really slow, which we've seen a few times under Eli Drinkwitz?
Again, it's kind of like what we were talking about in the beginning with how big this game is. And if Mizzou wins it, then they're announcing themselves to the national stage. Whereas if they lose it, then they kind of fall into that limbo of where Penn State and James the complacency that Penn State has led them to a spot where now they are losing games to UCLA, which is absolutely hilarious. Anyways, like a loss to Bama doesn't really like full send you into that state, but it definitely gets you closer to it's like, okay, when are you going to win that game? Because this is that game. And that's what it comes down to. One final wrinkle that I really want to mention in this game that I don't think that we've got the chance to mention is Bama's DC is the old University of Southern Alabama, their former head coach.
Yeah.
And Corey Batoon was the former defensive coordinator. Both of them got hired after Snake Baker left and Nick Saban retired. Those two moved and became the defensive coordinators for Bama and Mizzou. So I think that that's a very interesting aspect of this game. Sure. Because they can
have both those guys involved in the offensive game plan.
Yeah. They're going to know how to attack the defenses a little bit in more unique ways, which I think it's just an interesting part of this game, an interesting wrinkle that I'm curious to see. Like, obviously, we won't really know, but sure. I would be really curious to see what those conversations are like behind closed doors with Corey Batoon and Bo Pribula talking about this game, because I know Ty Simpson mentioned the familiarity that I forget the Bama DC name.
Kane Wommack.
Yeah, thank you. But him and Simpson talked for a while about how to attack this Missouri defense, which again makes me a little bit worried, but that's an advantage that both teams have, I think.
Well, it may sound kind of weird, but you would think that Batoon's kind of had a bigger advantage because he was, even though he was the DC, like Kane Wommack was kind of considered the defensive mastermind behind that Southern Alabama team. And it's like, you would hope that it was really just Batoon learning under Womack. And so Batoon knows everything about Womack, but Womack doesn't know as much about the wrinkles that Batoon has added to his own defense. But I don't know. Batoon's defense has been pretty consistent over the past couple years, though, as far as what they run. So I don't know. We'll see. But I'm definitely glad you brought that up because that's an interesting angle of this that you're right. Not a lot of people have talked about. So we'll see what happens for sure. Honestly, there's not too many more aspects of this game that I want to hit on. I think we talked about all the major points, but yeah, it just feels like the momentum right now is with the University of Missouri, Braden, and this is their time. This is their chance. Yeah.
One last thing. Bama is 2-4 on the road in their last 6 road games, not 2-5. Though they could very easily be 2-5 in their
foreshadowing there.
Maybe, hopefully that was me just making a mistake and prophesizing it to be true.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to look at it as. So,
okay.
I don't know. Anything else that we didn't talk about, Braden, you want to hit on? Or is it time?
Nothing with the Missouri Tigers team. I do want to shout out the Mo State Bears for a phenomenal win over Middle Tennessee State. That was a fantastic game, and it's been really fun to watch this Bears team. Their quarterback was I believe he was a true freshman backup quarterback to the main starter, Jason Clark. I think his name's Deuce Parker. Balled out and beat Middle Tennessee State. Yeah. Just really fun football game to watch. And I know that there are Mizzou fans who are just weirdly insecure about Mo State, but it is really fun to watch another Missouri FBS football program come up and has started off really well with 2 FBS wins, and then they almost beat Western Kentucky as well. And they have a chance to I know that they can't compete in the conference championship or bowl games because of the transition year, but they have a chance to just be an above 500 and be a pretty good team in Conference USA, I think. So go Bears.
Yeah, no, that was a good win for them. First conference win since entering FBS. So nice to see for them. I remember saying that I think, looking at their schedule, they could go bowling this year. And then you reminded me because they moved up, they can't be in a bowl game, which is just the stupidest thing ever. But
for sure,
it's whatever. There's actually one more thing I want to say that I forgot to mention. Just as far as like the culture Drinkwitz is built and the mentality he's instilled in this team and how his guys really rally around what he has to say, everything like that. You know, we saw him say before the South Carolina game, they have something and I want it back because they lost that game last year, felt like they should have won. And I think I'm interested to see how they come out and, you know, if we get some sort of like mini movie video or something showing what Drink is saying to the
Which
team.
they've
Because,
just retired randomly.
yeah, you can't find them anywhere. It's kind of odd, but it's really tragic actually. But Drinkwitz, I just think he's preaching to those guys right now. They kicked your ass last year. We felt like we matched up with them.
They put the starters back in to make sure that it was a shutout too. Kind of the same feeling of that Tennessee game where it's late in the game and a little bit of gamesmanship there that Drink's not going to take too well.
Yeah, I think he wants his get back. So hopefully that shows on the field. The mentality is reflected in the way that they play. But without further ado, I think it's time for predictions, Braden. So I'm going to put you on the spot, and I'm going to make you go first. What is your prediction? Do we get Drink Whiff or do we get the dramatic Missouri victory?
Drink Whiff.
What?
I'm going to say just as a pessimistic Mizzou fan who is praying to be wrong, because I definitely think the Mizzou has an avenue to win this game, but I just do not want to predict them to win because that, in my opinion, is just bad karma. Because I did this with the A&M game last year where I predicted us to win. I think it was 31-28, and I didn't feel confident about it. And after saying it, I'm like, I just feel like I cursed them. So I'm going to say Bama 35, Mizzou 31. I'm going to say that. I am praying to God that it's not true. I am not Zach Sweat or whatever the hell his name is, because I definitely think the Mizzou can and has a very good chance to win this football game. I'm just superstitious to hell and back, so I'm not going to say that Mizzou wins because I'm weird.
Well, Braden, I am going to zig while you're zagging, and I'm going to pick Missouri to win, and I will say final score is 30-28. I think it's close, but Mizzou pulls it out. Drinkwitz in a close game. I think Ahmad Hardy.
Last second field goal.
No.
Robert Myers.
I think it'll come down to Mizzou getting a first down to run the clock out and Bama not being able to stop them. And I think Ahmad Hardy rushes for 120 yards, 2 scores.
I think he rushes for more than 120.
Hey, I would love for that to happen, but
I'm thinking 150.
I'm just being modest, but I think there will be. I don't think he'll reach quite that number just because Alabama will be hyper focused on trying to stop him. But 120 is not a bad number at all.
No.
But you could also be right. But yeah, that's my prediction. I think it will come down to Mizzou just, protecting the lead, time of possession, but it'll be a close game. But Mizzou gets the big victory, and they head to Auburn 6-0.
I hope that you're right, and if we go into that Auburn game 6-0, I'm going to be incredibly worried about it because it's Bo Pribula and Ahmad Hardy and this Tigers team first road test. Yeah. And I'll be really curious to see how that goes, especially off a potential massive win.
Massive
Yep.
win. But yeah, no, I think that about does it. So guys, definitely let us know your score predictions for this game, who you think is going to win, down in the comments below. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up there. So make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Mizzou fans can find this. Check out my work on showmefootball.com. Follow the Twitter at showmefb. And then Braden, before we go, I was going to ask for a movie recommendation, but whatever topic you want to talk about, I'm going to let you get, quick hit in on whatever it is you want to talk about.
Yeah, I don't really have any movie recommendations. Smashing Machine was pretty good. I know Connor will say to recommend that. So, Smashing Machine for a movie recommendation, but like a true honest recommendation for me is watch Peacemaker. Really good show. Really good show. And I'd also like to shout out my dad, who is going to have an absolutely miserable day on Saturday. Let me just check that the Cubs won real quick. I'm pretty sure that they did. They were up a lot. Yes, they won 6-0. My dad is a Cubs fan. The Cubs are playing Game 5 on Friday or on Saturday, and Mizzou is playing Bama on Saturday. He is a Mizzou fan as well. We are going to the game. Pray for him because it is going to be a brutal day for him with Game 5 against the Brewers and this Bama game because both are massive games for both of his teams.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine that amount of stress at once as a sports fan, being at the game, having to choose where to put your focus. But yeah, no, good luck to him.
Well, the Cubs game is after. It'll probably be like as we get to the car is when the Cubs game will be starting. But just the constant the mental shift from going straight from both, like that's I think
we've all felt that at one point or another as sports fans. But no, good note to end it on. So, like I said, guys, definitely let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. We're going to end it there. We thank you all for watching this video. We'll see you all on the other side. As always, Braden, MIZ.
ZOU.